This is the story of one of baseball's earliest and most enduring legends, Honus Wagner. Widely considered as the game's greatest shortstop, his career bridged the gap between baseball's early years and the dead ball era, spanning from 1897 to 1917. As a homage to his blazing speed and German heritage, Wagner was nicknamed the Flying Dutchman. This was also a nod to Richard Wagner's famous opera. Born Johannes Peter Wagner on February 24, 1874, the man the world would know as Honus began his life in the rugged Pennsylvania coal town of Chartier. He dropped out of school at 12 to help his family work at the coal mines. He later trained to be a barber before dropping the scissors and picking up a baseball bat. In 1896, he played with the minor league team, the Wheeling Nailers. The following year, he moved to the Patterson Silk Sox of the Atlantic League. Scouts said he could play exceptional defense in any position in the infield, but settled on the most difficult of all, shortstop. That same year, he made his major league debut with the Louisville Colonels. Wagner was a monster on the base paths. In 1899, he became the first player credited with stealing second, third, and home in succession. He repeated this feat in 1902, 1907, and 1909. In 1899, the National League contracted from 12 to 8 teams, and the Colonels were among that folded. Wagner joined the Pittsburgh Pirates, and his career took off. He debuted with the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1900 and won the first of 8 batting titles with 381. He led the league with 45 doubles, 22 triples, 302 total bases, a .573 slugging average, and an OPS of 1.007. Within just 2 years, Wagner had become a star in the National League. This rise to prominence coincided with the formation of the American League in 1901. The upstart league aggressively sought to lure top players away from the established National League, and Wagner was one of the prime targets. Despite a tempting offer from the Chicago White Sox, Wagner chose to remain loyal to the Pittsburgh Pirates, a decision that cemented his legacy with the team. In 1903, he played in the first ever World Series, a best-of-9 event. Unfortunately for Wagner, his Pittsburgh Pirates lost to the Boston Americans, 3-5. Led by pitching legend Cy Young, Boston overcame a 3-1 deficit by winning the next 4 games in the series. Wagner was criticized for his performance in the series as he only batted .222 with a double and 3 RBIs. To put that in perspective, pitcher Cy Young had a triple and also had 3 RBIs. This performance haunted Wagner in the next few years, and he almost retired before the 1908 season. But the owner of the Pirates rewarded him with a major contract, ensuring he'd be the highest-paid Pirate for many years. Wagner responded by having probably his greatest season in 1908. He missed winning the Triple Crown by just 2 home runs, but he led the league in batting, doubles, triples, stolen bases, OPS, and total bases. He also had a WAR of 11.5, the highest ever for a shortstop. Fueled by a hunger for redemption, Wagner led the Pirates back to the World Series in 1909. Their opponents were the Detroit Tigers, boasting a fearsome lineup that included the legend Ty Cobb and all-time triples leader Sam Crawford. It was a clash of titans, as both Cobb and Wagner had secured batting titles that season. The Tigers, just like Wagner, were determined to erase the sting of previous World Series defeats, having lost the championship the past 2 years. This time, Wagner and the Pirates wouldn't be denied. In a thrilling 7-game series, Pittsburgh emerged victorious, defeating Detroit 4-3. Wagner himself played a crucial role, batting a stellar .333 with 7 RBIs. He also stole a record-breaking 6 bases, a feat that stood until Lou Brock surpassed it in 1967. Even though Wagner dominated the first decade of the 20th century, he hardly received any accolades, as baseball didn't have individual awards. It was only in 1911 when baseball began giving MVP awards. That year, Wagner finished tied for 3rd in voting. The following year, at age 38, he led the National League in WAR, but finished 2nd in voting. Wagner retired at the end of the 1917 season with a WAR of 131, the highest career total for a shortstop. He also had 3,420 hits, a .328 batting average, 1,732 RBIs, 723 stolen bases, 643 doubles, 252 triples, a 391 on-base percentage, a 467 slugging average, and a 151 OPS plus. Incredibly, he had 996 extra base hits and only 753 strikeouts. He won 8 batting titles, still the record for the National League. He also led the league in doubles 7 times, RBIs 4 times, stolen bases 5 times, and OPS 8 times. In 1936, Major League Baseball held the first ever elections for the Hall of Fame. Everyone who was part of the game, from the 1850s to that time, were eligible. This included active and retired players, as well as executives and other non-players. When the votes were counted, Wagner was tied for second with Babe Ruth, behind only the great Ty Cobb. Wagner joined Cobb, Ruth, Christy Mathewson, and Walter Johnson in the Hall of Fame's inaugural class. Honus Wagner passed away on December 6, 1955. The Pirates continue to honor him to this day with a life-size statue of Wagner swinging a bat. It was first installed at Forbes Field in 1955 and now stands outside the main gate of the PNC Park. Yet even though nearly 70 years have passed since his passing, Honus Wagner's name remains synonymous with one of the rarest and most valuable sports collectibles, the T206 baseball card. Produced by the American Tobacco Company, only 57 were ever made. While the exact reason remains debated, some believe Wagner himself halted production, possibly disapproving of children buying cigarettes to acquire his card. Others speculate the American Tobacco Company refused his request for increased royalties. Regardless of the origin, this limited availability has propelled the T206 Wagner card to the pinnacle of sports memorabilia. And in 2022, one sold for a record $7.25 million. Though Honus Wagner retired more than 100 years ago, his legend lives on, whether in stories, baseball cards, or his mind-boggling achievements on the field. Thank you for watching. Do you agree that Honus Wagner is the greatest shortstop of all time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. It helps the channel immensely.